Good morning, beautiful people. It's another day of the self-care diaries, and I'm joined by very inspiring Shukri Toefy. Good day, sir. How are you?
Good, very, very good, and happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you with us. Tell us, who is Shukri Toefy?
So I am an entrepreneur, a dad, a friend, but I think most importantly, I really, want to help people be the best possible versions of themselves, and that's predominantly through business, but also through sort of leadership development and coaching as well.
I've seen you speak at the Future Females last year, and I was really inspired by how authentic you are and how easily you share a very powerful message. I think you spoke to us about the 5 points to a perfect pitch, if I remember. And it was really, you were very succinct, and I can imagine how you've really, I know you inspired a lot of women in the room, so I'm really glad that's where we met. Today we're speaking about the power of journaling, and after that Future Females event, you very kindly said that you'd give me a couple of your minutes or your time, just to point me in the direction of what it means to be a speaker, right? And there you told me how passionate you are about journaling, and I thought, what sent you on this journey to having such a passion for journaling?
So I think as someone who started a business at 22 years old, and I think that the journey of entrepreneurship and sort of is a lonely one very often, and I think there are not many people that can sort of share that journey with you. And I think for me, journaling helped me sort of unlock my own sort of wisdom within myself. It helped me reflect. It helped me all my good ideas and bad ideas existed within that. And so it also freed me up from not needing to remember everything if I just wrote things down. And so, for me, it started off as something that assisted me in my business leadership development, but over time has become a tool for much greater sort of self-understanding and self-growth, yeah.
I really love that because as a coach, it's one of the first things that I encourage people to do. And often, if people can't afford to see a coach, then I'll say journal, guys, because at least you can gain some self-awareness. And I really believe, I agree with you, the power of getting things out of our heads and onto paper. It doesn't swirl and swirl and swirl. When we get it onto paper, we are actually able to give it some objectivity. So I saw that you had written, at least produced a short film called Unwritten. Can we get a sneak peek up, and where can people watch it? And it's about journaling, and I think it's a really cool film.
Yeah, so very, very succinctly, it's a festival piece, so it's not sort of out, but I can tell you about it very quickly. In that, I wanted to share just how visceral and how important it is to journal, and so I chose a place to go to that I'd never been before, and we shot a documentary film, which was basically a visual journal of my reflections in the time. Traveling through the Kathmandu Valley. And it really brought the pages of my journal to life, and is sort of helps you show that, we're all perceiving things differently. We might be looking and dealing with the same situation, but dealing with it differently. So it was a film that brought all of that to life and was, I think, interesting from a personal perspective, but also because you got to travel through and meet these different characters that we did in our time in Nepal.
That's amazing. Gosh, it must be really beautiful there. I've never been. It's definitely on my bucket list. And then tell me, do you have like a structure when are there like certain journal prompts that you have, or do you just do free association where you just write freely?
So I think, let me start off by saying that I think let's debunk this idea of some of the things that people think journaling is, right? So journaling is not Dear Diary, I'm in love with Sarah or with George. Necessarily, it could be that for you. And so for me, it's something that when you write something down, it fundamentally changes the frequency of it. As you said, it creates objectivity for it. But most importantly, for me, it fits into that action reflection model. So I act, I reflect, and then I act again, and then I reflect. And so it need not be super formal and structured, but just that ability to be able to have a look at things on paper fundamentally changes the frequency of it. And so for me, there are two parts to it. There is the self-care leadership development stuff, which I think is really, really important, because the notion of leadership development is the ability to be self-aware, the ability to lead yourself. Um, and so whether that's in the workplace, in your life, as an entrepreneur, whatever that is, that ability to be able to lead yourself, I think journaling is very important in that. Then there's a second aspect to it, in my opinion, which is the almost subject matter content stuff, right? So you write it down, you draw pictures of it, you find you like a word that someone used and wrote that down, and you come back to it. And I found myself even as a high school student, I was always fascinated by the words that people used. I would listen to like a great speaker and I would say like, oh, that's an interesting word. Let me write it down. And in those days, actually look for it in the dictionary and then try and use it either in an essay or in my own kind of speaking and things like that. So I think without journaling formally, I've always used it as my little sketch pad to what's happening on the inside for me. And so there's just an absolute release that comes with being able to put something down. And then I think another way of thinking about it is that what you write down is really a window to your soul, right? So if you do sort of just free flowing about what the anxiety that you're feeling or the excitement that you're feeling or whatever those emotions are, when you put them down, it allows you to kind of see what's actually going on and bubbling up inside you. And I think the other thing is that I think people very often we're looking for the answers and knowledge from the outside. And I think similarly, even for me on my journey to Nepal, I went and I was almost a spiritual tourist. I was like, what can I learn about the meaning of life and what's happening? And you realize that the ability to unlock and synthesize generational wisdom that's before you in society and in your life is a very, very powerful thing. And journaling is one of the best ways to achieve that.
I love that. So you've said four things. First is that it's an act of self-leadership. So connecting to yourself and showing up as the best person that you can be. It's understanding the content too, was the content of your life and being able to become objective to that. I love the third was a window to your soul. And I guess that's around self-awareness. And then fourth is tapping into one's internal genius. So I've used other words, but how I understand what you're saying. And leading from that integrated, authentic space from within. So I love that. I've seen the power of journaling in my own life and in my clients' lives. And I'm really grateful for your time today. I'd like to also. I mean, speaking about leadership and that being a big focus of your life, you're definitely one of the leaders that are standing up in South Africa alongside Mosaic Magazine with the hashtag Men Taking a Stand, where there are a whole lot of you. I think Billy Silikane, if I recognize his photo there, is one of the other men. There are a whole lot of you that are standing up and saying enough is enough, and you're wanting to get involved with it, stopping GBV, gender-based violence in South Africa. And for every single woman in the world, I say thank you, and I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that and how other men can maybe support you, how women can support you?
So I think, let me start off by saying that me standing up to raise awareness for this, I don't come to it as an expert or someone who's coming to it on a high perch and saying that, this is, follow me because I do it perfectly. I stand up to say that we have to, as men, take a stand. And to the point of this, kind of video at the moment, build awareness around our thoughts, actions, behaviors, and language. And there's been a lot spoken about almost this funnel, with micro transgressions being, at the bottom of the funnel being brutal, horrible gender-based violence. And for us to sit in society and say, well, how could that ever happen? Like, how does this take place in the society that we live? And for me, it's about saying, let's go to the top of that funnel and hold ourselves to account, and hold our community, and hold our friend circles, and hold our WhatsApp groups to account on the language that we use, on the innuendo, on the way that we speak about women in society. And so for me, it starts there. And so again, me standing up is not saying I'm perfect, or I understand, the intricacies of this perfectly. But for me to stand up and to draw attention to the fact that it's what we do on a day-to-day basis that allows further transgressions to happen further down the funnel. And that all of us have to be educators. All of us have to stand up and face unpopularity. We have to face possible exclusion. We have to feel uncomfortable if that's happening in the boardroom that we're in the WhatsApp conversation that's taking place. So for me, it was a call to action to hold ourselves and our inner circles accountable, and hopefully create those ripples of change to be able to allow greater awareness for gender-based violence, not only in South Africa, but in the world.
And I agree. I think that it's going to take all of us. I don't think that this is I am thrilled that men are taking a stand, because I think that for too long men have been muzzled by that fear of being an outlier or an outsider and not wanting to cause waves. But it is definitely going to, this war is going to take all of us. And I agree. I mean, the smallest slight, it's standing at the braai and the dude being rude to his wife about getting the salad. It's small things like that if we can say, hey dude, is there a kinder way to say that? It educates us all. So, and I
think we live in a highly patriarchal society. I have sons. I'm raising sons, and I'm so aware of just how patriarchal society is, from like cultural, religious, societal practices, to sport on television, to I think Formula One, which my sons watch at the moment. They've changed it in the last year, but the drivers drive, and women in dresses kind of line up for them to walk in the middle of, and that's kind of what they see and they pick up, on a sort of subconscious level and on a conscious level all the time. So it's a huge battle. We're facing generations of structural reform that's required.
Yeah, and I mean, if I look at the stats with GBV, it's not just men hurting women. I mean, there are women hurting men. 40% of the GBV violence in South Africa is inflicted by women. So I think that I understand that women are victims, but I also understand that men are victims. I mean, men that are hurting women are hurt themselves. And I think that we can't kick them to their curb and break their knees and, the kind of things that the rhetoric that we're hearing, or the narrative that we're hearing. These men are needing healing. These men are needing love. These men are needing understanding. And I think that once our little boys that have been beaten by their fathers, that then become brutalizers of their wives, I really believe that it's going to take generational reform. It's going to take all of us to stand up and say enough is enough. So I really appreciate you being part of that, these leaders, these men that are prepared to stand up and say enough is enough. I don't know if you've heard of Gavin Sharples. He's get him on my show as well. He's written a book called The Real Manual, but it's Shukri, it's like this thick. It's like I was like, maybe it could just be like one page, like don't be a doers. Like that would be like
That's the Lee Joy summary, right? That's your summary.
And I used a very kind word there. My normal word is not so kind. But he's doing such amazing work. You might want to look into it. He's donating books at, like, he's got different sponsors that are buying books for different corporates, and they're giving them to the CEOs and stuff. He's doing some really amazing work. And I remember a story that he told. He was walking down the street, just going for a walk during lockdown, and there was these dustbin guys. The one dustbin guy was harassing this young girl that was walking with her girlfriend, and eventually Gavin like took him on and said, dude, you can't like speak to a girl like this. And then he's like, and you muppet standing here just watching him do it, like, it's not okay, it's not okay. And I was like, wow, it's gonna take grassroots, literally, like streetwise action to start shifting the dial and changing the narrative. So thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate your time today.
No, and I do also think that as part of that, so that's sort of like the on the ground, almost horizontal application of this awareness building, and not only awareness building, but actually change of behavior. But then we need new types of heroes, right, in society. We need new types of role models. So if you have any sort of profile, whether you're a business leader, a community leader, I think it's important to build within your personal brand someone who is more caring, who doesn't stand for that. That is, in the same way that, you know, we are facing racism, I think that we need to be looking at race, class, and gender, and the intersection of that, and the intersectionality of that, particularly in places like South Africa. So it's really important that we change the face of what we think success is. You know, a highly masculine white man that is, you know, deeply patriarchal in everything that he says and does. So that's important, and I think that there's a role to play for everybody. You know, whether you want to stand up, what you say, what you do, whether you're stopping, you know, that on the side of the road, it all plays a role in trying to sort of like, you know, move us forward.
Thank you. Thank you. So if we round it back to journaling, is there one journal prompt that really inspires you?
So I must say, I don't, you know, I've many different books on journaling and things, which I've kind of read a little bit and scanned through the years. For me, you know, my journals are at times words, drawings, which hopefully nobody ever sees because I really don't draw that well at all. But so for me, it's really about, you know, if I'm working with people, it's about, you know, it's almost similarly to a clearing, right? So like, what's going to get you present in this room? What do you need to let go of to be present right here? Well, I'm nervous because my car disc license hasn't been renewed. So like, it's on my mind right now, and so therefore I can't be present. So I think it's important that we remove the clutter of those type of things and maybe write them down and say, well, what can I do about it? And what can I control and what can't I control? That then allows me to get to the real substantive matter of what's happening inside me beyond the fact that I'm parked on a yellow line, or you know, there's an email I need to be able to respond to. So for me, that's the first step of a clearance, if you will, and that can happen in a verbal setting, and also in sort of writing things down to be able to move out some of those basic things. And then again, you know, these reflective practices for me are about moving some of these big rocks in your life, right? And moving some things out the way to be able to get you there. So it's about, you know, what you need to clear from your mind. What are the big rocks that you want to move in your life? All of those kind of things I think are very valuable journaling prompts.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that it's about becoming present, you know, the power of now, as Eckhart Tolle speaks about, and how one uses journaling to do that. But then that's actually really powerful, because I'm thinking like my journaling, I get present, but I don't necessarily dive deeper into really what's going on. And getting present can often be the obstacle to that deep work. So I really love that. Shukri, anything you'd love to leave with my watchers, my viewership? Any last comments?
I think we're having the conversation at the level of journaling. but as you said in your introduction, it's ultimately self-awareness, right? So we're speaking about self-care, it's the self-care diaries, it's self-awareness. And um, if you're not someone that, or you don't feel safe to write things down because you're actually scared, there's no safe place to actually put the journal. I'm going to hide it in the boot of my car, or I'm going to stick it in my laptop bag. Like, these are actual practical hurdles that people have. I think the practice of reflecting and becoming self-aware of what you're feeling and what you're saying and what you're doing is most important. And that can be as simple as sitting quietly, switching your phone off, and actually just being quiet and allowing some of those thoughts to just kind of settle for you is really important. So, very often I've been able to move my kind of journaling practice to be just a deep reflective practice. And whether that's prayer, meditation, mindfulness, whatever that is, that's what's really important to allow you to be able to get to where you need to get to. And journaling is but a tool, a very powerful and practical tool. But the bigger takeaway is the ability to build up self-awareness on everything that you're doing. And that doesn't mean that you have to solve it, right? I think that's, sometimes you have to sit in it. Sometimes you have to sit in the discomfort, and kind of go deeper, like kind of probe more where you feel uncomfortable. And that's where you can further write things down, or unpack things in a bit more detail for yourself.
So the idea of progress rather than perfection, and that it's a process of becoming and understanding ourselves. One of my clients was also worried about doing a written journal, because in case people find her deep dark secrets. So the solution we came up was to get a password protected document on her computer. So, and it is, I mean, typing and writing it is powerful, because I do believe it changes the energy of it. Like you said, the frequency of, if it just gets stuck in our head, it's not quite the same. Shukri, thank you very much. I wish you everything of the best with your plans going forward, and this hashtag Men Taking a Stand. I'll be watching, and if there's any way that I can support, I would love that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your genius and sharing it with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, and all the best with the important work that you're doing.
Ciao, everybody. Have a beautiful day.